Alrighty, why don't we get started? So, we are done with week 10. I told you about files and all that good stuff, and this week we're continuing with a little bit more files. I am assigning the data mining project, and I'm going to show you how to import your own files. So today's relatively short, I think. And for the data mining, I guess I'll just start with the data mining project. So the data mining project is a significant chunk of points for this class, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use what you've learned up to this point to do some things. Okay, so I'll tell you what you need to do here. So first of all, the file that you have to work with is this table CSV file. So you can download it, and you can just rename it to table or whatever. And if you open this thing, you're going to see that it's it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet. That's it's got its own rows and its own columns. The first column is just a bunch of dates. Then there's a bunch of other columns in there, and the one that we're interested in is the last column. Okay, so first of all, this is a spreadsheet with Google stock prices for I don't know how many years. Let's see it. So from 2004 all the way to 2008, there's how many? 1,031 lines. Okay, so what your program is supposed to do is supposed to go through this file and extract all of the averages. So this is basically the close for the stock price of Google for a particular date. So so for 9/19/08 it closed at this, and the previous day it closed at that, right? So what you have to do is you have to look at all the months for, this is September, right? So everything for September ends around there, right? And what I would recommend for you to do is do exactly what I'm doing. Basically open this thing up in an Excel spreadsheet, and mark out exactly what I'm doing. So first of Sublime. All right, if you open up this thing, this is what it looks like. It's pretty much just a text file which has a bunch of data separated by commas. Right, that's why it's a comma separated file. All right, and then there's a new line at the end of each of these lines. Right, so you already know how to read a file, break it into lines. You already know how to split each line into different things by commas. I've shown you that in the previous week's video. So what you have to do is you have to go in there and you have to break this file into lines. You have to break each line by commas. You have to break the first thing, which is your date element, into it really depends, by the way, on what computer you open this, and it really doesn't matter if it's necessarily a Windows or a Mac. Sometimes you open it on a Mac, and this date here might be formatted differently. Okay, so on some computers, when you open up this thing, it will be separated like that. On some of them, it's going to be separated by dashes. On some of them, the month is going to be first, the year is going to be last. On some of them, the month's going to be in the middle, the date's going to be first. Right? On this particular case, you can see the year is first. So what I'm saying is, don't just open up this thing in Excel. Like, you can see how it looks in Excel here, but when you open it up in your program and you try to read it, the arrangement of the date might be different. Okay, so what you have to do is you're going to have to grab each of these lines, split it by commas. Okay, each line is going to be split by commas. Each first element, and then once you split the line by commas, then you end up with a list of things. The first element of that list is going to be the date, and then what you have to do is you have to split the date by whatever whatever delimiter that you have in here. In this particular case, it's dashes, so I would have to split the date by dashes. Then I'm going to get three things. I'm going to get my year as one element, my month as the second element, my actual day as the third element. And what I need to do is I'm going to be focusing on my month. Okay, so the month is the thing that's going to trigger changes. And again, I literally walk you through every step of this project in the video that I have posted in there. So if you try to, if you try to do this and you get stuck, go look at the video. It'll help you solve it. But don't look at the video unless you're absolutely stuck. Okay, and if you're relying on the video to solve the whole thing for you, then once you're done, again, do it all over again. So what you have to do is this. So first of all, what we have to do is we're going to have to sum up all the all the stock prices here, right? So I'm going to have to do, you can easily do this in Excel, right? But it's going to be very tedious if you try to do it manually for every, set of dates, right? So this is my sum for the month 9, okay? Then you can count how many things are in there. So if you go and you do a count in Excel, that'll tell you how many days, right? So there's 14 days that we counted. The sum of these, all of them, is 6,000 something, and then you have to calculate the average, which is just this number divided by this number. So when you write your program, you can easily check by just open up Excel and then calculating the average for the first couple of months to see if your program's working. Okay, so the way you would do this is you have to basically, in the very beginning, you're going to have like sum is equal to 0, right? And then sum here is going to be equal to every element added, right? So sum in the first day, sum is equal to the first element, right? The second day, the sum is equal to the previous sum plus, is equal to the previous, oh, that's not the shift, equals to the previous plus the next one, right? And if you keep doing this, then when you get to this, then it's going to end up being the same result, okay? And the same thing for the count. The count here is going to be equal to 1, and then it's going to be 2, and then 3 every month. It increases, okay? And then when we get to the 14, and then do it as predictable as I want it. 5, 6. Excel is good at picking up patterns. 7, 8, 9, 10. What's happening here? 11. I don't know how I counted 14. 12. Do you see something wrong with my count? What's going on here? How did they go to 14?
I think it goes 1 to 6, 1, 7, 8, 9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, duh. Thanks. Yeah, so there you go. 7, 8, 9. I guess Excel's not that smart. 11, 12, 13. And then it goes to 10, right? But then if you're continuing to do this, then when it gets to the next month, it will attempt to do a 15, and then it will attempt to do the previous plus the next one here also, but that's incorrect. Okay, so you don't want to be doing this. What you want to do is as soon as you detect a change in the month, so in other words, the month here is going to change from 9 and it's going to switch to 8. You have to restart counting, right? So at this point, this is equal to this, and this is equal to 1, and then you resume this process all over again. Okay, so the way you would do this, and again, I have this in the video, but basically the way I do it is I have some kind of an old month, right? So initially what I'll do is I'll say, all right, old month is equal to 9, right? And then the old month is going to be equal to 9, and then here I'm also going to have a new month. Okay, so I start the old month at equal to 9, which is what I know the first date is, and then the new month is just going to be equal to whatever piece of data I grab from here, right? So it's going to be 999 all the way up until this point, right? So it's going to be 999. As soon as we get to this point here, as soon as we go to the next one here, the new month is going to change, right? So as soon as, and it's the same thing with the old month. The old month is going to be equal to 9, right? It's basically the old month doesn't change until we get to basically this point, okay? So the new month grabs the date from here, right? And the old month is just fixed to whatever I wanted it originally. As soon as I detect a change where these two are not the same, that is when I restart counting, restart counting and restart my sum. Okay? And then as soon as you do this, so basically what you do is you do this. So you detect that the new month is not equal to no longer equal to the old month. That's your trigger that, okay, restarts the sum, restarts the count. And then as soon as you do that reset, then it's time for you to reset the old month, make it equal to 8. And then it's going to resume this process again, right? The old month is going to continue to be 8, 8, 8 until we get to like around here, right? So it's going to be 8 up to that point, all right? And the new month is also going to be equal to 8 up to that point, right? And as soon as we get to this particular line, then the new month changes to 7, right? And again, same thing. As soon as these two are different, we're going to restart the sum, we're going to restart counting, and then we're going to change this month, the old month, back to the new month. And then that whole process goes over and over.
It's still for August.
Huh?
Sorry. No.
Okay.
It was still for August.
Yeah. So it's going to follow the same pattern over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? So the only thing, so this will work basically, and what, the way you would want to do this is you want to do it into little pieces, right? So first I'm going to do it for one line. I'm going to make sure that I can extract this piece by itself. I'm going to make sure that I can extract the month by itself, the year by itself, right? I'm also going to make sure that I can extract this value by itself. This is the actual data that we're looking at. All these different middle pieces, we really don't care about them. Okay, so once I have successfully, dissected this little particular line, then I'm going to tell it, okay, well, let me just go and do this for the first month. Okay, and it's going to work fine. Hopefully, and again, what you don't want to do is you don't want to do the whole thing at once. Okay, there's 1,031 lines of data in there. If you're trying to do the whole thing at once, it will just overwhelm you. It will be just too much stuff going on through your eyes, and you're not going to get it. Okay, so break it down first, one line, right? Extract this piece of information, extract this piece of information, then grab this piece of information, break it into a month and a year. Okay, and then once you've done that, then repeat that process, but just for the first 15 days, right? And we know that it's 15 days or whatever, 14 that we counted in here. And then when it works, when you get this number, this number, and this number, and then the average, then force your code to go one line extra. So you have made it to go up to this point only. Now force it to go to the next line. And then as soon as you do that, then you're going to see that it does exactly what I told you. We'll try to do this plus that, right? And then we'll try to make this a 15. And at that point, you're going to say, all right, hold on. I remember he said something about the old month and the new month. Make your old month equal to the initial value, right? Make the new month equal to the value of the month for every day, right? And then as soon as these two become different, right? This becomes as soon as this is a 9, for example, and this is an 8, that is your time to restart counting. Okay, and then do this whole thing again, but just for the second month. Make sure you verify the data in there. Use Excel to count the thing and then sum all the data, figure out the average. If you're getting the correct average for the first month and the second month, I guess you can try it for the third also, but probably will work for the third as well. And at that point, you can expand your loop that's going to go through the lines to, instead of going just from the first 15 or first 30 whatever, make it go all the way until the end. But then what you're going to realize is that your last month is not going to show correctly. And the reason for that is because we told it to only trigger change if the month changes, right? So if I come to this line right here and I say that my old month, let me mark it, all right? So as soon as I get to this point, we trigger a change because the month changed from 8 to 9, right? So as soon as it does that, then it will restart the sum, it will restart the count, and then we're going to have, let's say, we're going to have an old month, and we're going to have a new month, right? So as soon as they're different, let's say this one was before it was 9, right? And the new month here is 8, right? So as soon as they're different, then we're going to, you know, restart counting, restart the sum, change the old month to 8, and then this thing keeps going. But then as soon as it gets to the end, there isn't another one, right? So there isn't another change. So at this point, they're both going to be equal to 8, right? 8, 8, 8, 8, all the way until the end. When we get to the last one after that, I would not be able to basically get another line because the file ends. So I will not be able to get another change, change to indicate, change of the months to indicate that I need to do show another sum and count. So what you need to do is you need to have like an extra if in there, basically telling it, okay, if the 2 months are different, like we did in here. So if the 2 months are different, then start counting, or show the sum and show the count for that particular month. Or if you have gotten to the last line, then show the sum and the count for this particular month also. So in other words, once you have your program working, it will work successfully for all the months up to this month. Okay, and for this month, it will not show you the actual average because it will not have a trigger. You will not have a change. The old month and the new month will never change. So you have to manually throw another if in there, telling it, okay, or if you're at the last line, then show the sum of the last month. Okay?
But those are for different years.
Those are for different years. Yeah, so and then what you have to do is your project will look something like this. So your final result is, oh, and by the way, I have it so that you're going to have different functions. So one function is to get the data from the file and then return a list of the lines, basically, right? So this is basically the list of all the lines in the file. Then this one here is going to get that list from the previous function, right, as a parameter, and it's going to calculate all the averages, put them in a list, and then the monthly average list is going to be sent into another function, which is going to show you the results. So basically at the end, you're going to have like a monthly average list, right? And your monthly average list 0 is equal to this. Monthly average list 1 is equal to, this is the month 9, year 2008. This was the average for the first month, and so on and so on and so on and so on, right? And what I'm saying is, again, your program is not going to show this unless you do an extra little if in your loop. Okay? And again, do it first time. The first thing you want to do is do it for one line. The second thing you want to do is, then do it for the first 14, 15 lines for the first month. Then push it just one extra to go to the next month. Then figure out how to adjust. Then do the next month, and then push it to go all the way until the end of the program. Make sure you're getting these numbers here that I'm getting, right? And you're going to realize that, wait, it's not showing me the number 50, and the reason it's not doing that is I already told you. Then you fix the 50 and you're done. Okay? So that's the data mining project. And if you get stuck on this, I do have that video, the data mining video. If you look at this thing, I don't know, 33 minutes, and it will walk you through this whole thing step by step. Okay? So, and again, don't look at it unless you absolutely have to. So now, the next thing that I want to tell you is about importing your own files. And importing your own files is something that you have already seen. Remember how we have import random, right? Okay, and there's some other ones in there when we get to, I don't know what else we get in there. If you get into, so there's a bunch of extra credit that I have for weeks 13, 14, 15, right? And I highly encourage you to do those because, in my opinion, these are the most fun ones, right? There's some bunch of other things that you're going to have to import, like if you want to make a graphical user interface, which is like a dialog box with buttons and stuff, then you need to import something called tkinter, which is a file with a bunch of functions that allow you to build these graphical things. If you wanted to do, what else we have? Let's see what I have. Protein weight, brute force. Yeah, this one right here. So if you wanted to brute force crack a password, you're going to have to import a bunch of other things. I don't know if I have some in there. For example, itertools is a way for you to do iterations and stuff like that, permutations. If you wanted to encrypt something, there's the hash lib right? If you wanted to, go through a website and easily extract information, you can use something called Beautiful Soup. There's a whole bunch of other libraries that are in Python that you can import. Okay, so what I'm showing you today is how to make your own file, put a bunch of functions in it, and then import them so that you can reuse your functions that you have already created without writing them every time in your program. Okay, so how do you do that is in week 11. So the example that I have in here is, let me zoom in on this. All right, so what I have is I have a couple of, where's my other file? File 2, yeah, so in here, right here I have a file 2 py, right? So what I have in file 2 py is I just have two functions, right? One of the functions is add, the other one is called welcome, right? And the file name is file2.py, right? So this file is saved in the same folder where my other program that is going to be using it is going to be saved, right? So file2py is saved in the same place as file1py, right? So they're both, if you look at this here, they're both on the desktop. So one is on the desktop, the other one is also on the desktop. Okay, so they're both on the desktop. So I want my file1py to be able to use my functions that I have written in my file2py. All I have to do is, well, there's two ways to do it. One way is if I said import file2, right? So that was the equivalent of saying import random. And what you're telling it is, you're telling it, okay, have access to all of the functions that are inside of the file2, right? So in other words, if I say import file2, I'm importing both of the functions. I'm importing add and welcome, okay? But if I wanted to access them, then I have to say file2.add, okay? So if I'm just doing the top one, if I am only doing import file2, then the way I'm going to be able to access the functions that are inside of file2 is using file2 dot and then the function name. Okay, so if I wanted to access file2, if I wanted to access add, I do file2.add. If I wanted to access welcome, I do file2.welcome. Okay, now the other way to do this is if you wanted to tell it what specific function from that file I want to import. That is this syntax right here. So if I say from file2 import welcome, then what happens is I have direct access to the welcome function without using the file2 dot part. Okay, so because of this syntax right here, from file2 import welcome is how I have access to this welcome right here. Okay, so that's why I can say welcome, then parentheses quotes Alex. That's going to send Alex as a parameter, as an argument inside this welcome function. Name is going to become equal to that, and it's going to show welcome Alex, and it's going to work. Okay. And just to confuse you a little bit more, I also wrote a little. Oh, no, that's the message. So if this message here is just the function that I wrote in here. So if I wanted to access a function from this file, well, I just write the function name like you've been doing up to this point. Okay, any questions? Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you. Now, what do you have to do for the importing your own files? Well, remember how you had to write one assignment where you had all of your different functions? Come on, zoom in. Right? So you had to write a min, a max, an average, a sum, an abs, a find, is even. I don't know if is even was part of it or find was part of it. I think I might have thrown in an extra little function in there that you have to write for this one. So you have to put all these different functions inside of a separate file. What file do we want to call it? Oh, it's going to be called my function. Maybe you should put an S in there. You write it. My functions py, right? And then you're going to import this my functions py into the test functions py file, and you're basically going to follow this example to do that assignment. Okay, does that make sense? So just put all the functions that most of these you have already written, put them inside of a inside of a file, import that file into another file, and then test all the functions from this file inside this file. Okay, so that's all you have to do. And considering that I gave you pretty much the walkthrough solution for the data mining project, you really don't have a whole lot to do. And that's all there is for this week. Any questions?
There's one file, in order to access that file and read from it, you have to give permission, I believe.
Which file? Is it the data mining one?
I don't remember which one, but there's one of them that needs your permission, because when I point to that link.
Tell me which one and I'll fix it.
Okay.
There were issues with there were one student pointed out there was an issue with this file here, right? So I had to fix it.
Maybe that's the one.
Maybe it was that one, yeah. Yeah, it was linking to I don't know where. I think it was Monterey, because I also teach this class in Monterey, and once I have the thing prepared, I can copy the contents and import it here, but I didn't import the right way, so I had to, you know, re-upload the file basically on this side, which is why, by the way, it's named Table 1 CSV.